So here's the second part of your project, of this project, where I'm using a square scarf. It's 17 by 17. It's stretched on the frame, and the design is already drawn. I have used feathers in the corners and some circular motifs, and I'm going to use the flat in the feathers as well as blended, and in the center of the scarf I'm going to use the watercolor technique, which includes the blended wash. The colors I'm using over here are sun yellow, bright green, and teal. These are now some of the accent colors of the season. So here we go. I'm clearing some of this off. So I have my paper towel. As usual, the colors must be properly shaken before you begin to use. Now I'm using the flat wash for the spine of the feathers. So this part may go fairly quickly. One thing you learn to do quickly is paint with the tip of your brush. Sometimes a hair of the tip of your brush. Now you notice that I have not refilled my brush. It still has lots of paint in it. That's the beauty of painting with Sumi brushes. So I'm going to turn. And I prefer to work away. I paint away for most of the part. Sometimes, depending on the angle and the design, sometimes you have to pull the paint to you, but it's not really recommended. Gives you a little more motion, elbow motion, when you're working away from you. I'm turning again. Now, if I had a square frame, just a couple more inches, I wouldn't have to turn as much. Now, what I've decided to do is create a blended wash in the body of the feathers using the other two colors, which are bright green and teal. And that would almost be like direct painting, because I'm not using water in this. I'm probably, well, you'll see what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off with the sun yellow. And move with the bright green. Push it carefully, try not to you're trying not to put get too much of the yellow on your brush. And there you have a different version of a blended wash on dry. Now this silk is silk satin or silk charmeuse. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other feathers. So returning, I'll put this color down. Remember, you're always working as quickly as you can. So we started with the yellow. Moving on to, and you can choose how much of each color you put in. I'm just giving you an example of how you can use and experiment with this process. What we've lost in the workshop is showing you how to work your paintbrush. Let me see if I can show you here. When you're applying, you press down and lift up. Press down and lift up. Show you again. That way you start learning how this brush works. Press down and lift up. So you're working and painting with the body and the tip of your brush. Press down and lift up. Now I'm doing it from this end. Now we're going to let this dry a bit. Now we're going to do the center. And the spritzer bottle is here. I've changed to the bigger brushes because I have to work quickly and apply the paint quickly. And my silk salt is at the ready. So off we go. Spritz the piece. You don't want to completely drench it. If you see I'm wetting it just enough to get these colors in. So the big takeaway from this is plan how you're going to apply the paint. Yes, there will be dripping like that occurs. And then you're going to use, you're also painting with your salt, with the textures you want to create. So I'm going around, whoops, missed a little section there, which is what happens at times. Make sure they're all in. Nope. Get them all painted in there because there's more to happen. Come around with the, so you're always working as quickly as you can. I'm following the line work as well. So one thing I'd encourage you to do is play with just color and the salt. For example, you can make stripes with your color, your dye, and with the salt, you make stripes going in the opposite direction and see how that works. A lot of what you see me doing, I've discovered through experimenting. Now I'm going to apply, you see me, this is what you call an accent color that I'm applying in these circular spots that I put down, and they don't necessarily have a lot of salt. So in my corners, you're going to have flat color. And just in the opposite corners. Once again, trying to keep the front line of your color free and wet, sorry. See, you can see the movement of the paint. You want to try and keep the front wet. Now there is a little seepage of that color, no problem. This is the kind of design you have, so that's not a problem at all. One thing I want to point out to beginners, I design breakpoints in my designs where you can see I drew the feathers straight to the edge of the scarf. You can see it better here, all the way to the edge. All the way to the edge. That gives me time to focus my attention on the quick work that I had to do in the center and then come back to the corners. You can see this better in one of my designs, the drawing of one of my designs to the back, behind my film person. In this here, it is impossible for me to paint the background in one solid color at one time because I have so many motifs in here. So what I have always done is create breakpoints in the design, whether it's with the, in this case, the feathers of the parrots or the twigs of the trees that they alight on. So if you step back, you can see the twigs creating a zigzag effect all the way up and down, and the falling feathers. That way I'm able to paint this background with ease and not confuse myself about going any further. So in other words, the feathers touching the twigs, touching the other feather, this creates a smaller piece for me to paint as opposed to a big piece. Here, I could have taken this in there. I could have made this feather touch there and there. Smaller areas for you to focus on. A few people have asked me how to do a background that is so big. That's how I do it. If you try to do a big background, you either should do a watercolor background before you do the pieces on top, and if you do it that way, then the background must be a lighter, the lightest color in your palette, so that you can, the motifs will stand out. In this way, I'm able to have a dark background if I want to, just because I've drawn in these stop gaps or break points. You must always plan how you're going to do the design, how the background is going to look, how you want it to look before you begin to paint. Hope this helps. I do wish to thank you for my 500 new subscribers, and I assure you that I will be continuing with my instructive videos. So do like, comment, and subscribe. And you can follow me on my Instagram at Clara Designs Art. Hope all this helps. Enjoy.